Once again, good morning, my dear students. So, how are you all guys doing? I hope you all guys are doing fine. So, let's start with our today's class. Okay, students? Right? So, shall we start with our today's class, students? Okay, right. So, but before we start our today's class, so I would just like to ask you that what we studied in our previous class. Can you remember what we studied in our previous class? Yes. Okay, right. So in our previous class, we saw that blood is a connective tissue, right? We also saw that bone is a connective tissue. There are ligaments, there are tendons that connects bone to muscles, right? And after that, we saw that there are cartilage, isn't it? We also saw fat, right? How fat is a connective tissue, where it is present between the skin and the muscles. So in our previous class, we had studied about the connective tissue, right? So in our today's class, we will be studying about another type of tissue or another type of the tissues that is found in the animals, right? And you have seen this tissue in your daily life also, right? So let me just change the slide and then you will be able to see this picture. What you need to do is that you need to observe that picture very carefully and then answer me what is the topic of our today's class. Okay, students? Right. So are you able to view this picture? Yes. Very good. So uh, we are going to study about the muscular tissues. Okay, students? Right. Okay. So, students, before we study the muscular tissues, so if I ask you what are the different functions of the muscular tissue, what will you say? Like, suppose if I want to lift my hand, then what is working? See, if I want to lift my hand, my these muscles are getting shortened, right? And my hand is being pulled this side, right? So it is the muscles, right? So let's study about the muscular tissues. So student, muscular tissues consist of the elongated cells, right? The muscular tissues consist of the elongated cells, and what we call this type of cells, we call them as muscle fibers. What we call them, students? We call them muscle fibers. Okay, we call them muscle fibers. So this tissue is responsible for movement in our body. Okay, so this muscular tissue or this muscle is responsible for movement in our body. Like when we want to move, then which muscle is used? Then this muscles are being used or this muscular tissue is being used. So this tissue is responsible for movement in our body, right? So these muscles contain a special protein, right? So these muscle cells contain a special protein or the contractile protein, and these contractile protein, what it does, it helps the muscles to contract, right? It helps the muscles to contract and relax, right? When the muscles contract and relax, then only what happens, the movement is caused. Suppose that I have here my biceps, my triceps. So if I want to move this arm towards you, so what is happening, this portion is getting relaxed, the biceps is getting relaxed, the triceps is getting contracted. But if I want to pull it towards myself, then what is happening? This biceps is getting contracted and the triceps is getting relaxed. Right? Now you understand what is contraction and relaxation, students? Right. Okay. Now let's move to our next slide. Students, before you read on the text part, I will just tell you that here I have pasted photos of different organs. You just need to identify those organs. Okay. So what is this, student? Yes, this is a heart. Right. This is a heart. This is urinary bladder. These are intestines. Right. This is a kidney. Right. This is blood vessels, right? This is lungs, right? These are muscles. Okay. So students, why I have brought these organs here? You might be thinking that, sir, why you are teaching this thing here? So the reason is that these organs, some of these organs are under your control, isn't it? Like suppose that if I want to move my hand, then my biceps and my triceps are under my control. But can you think of stopping your heart? Will your heart stop by just thinking of stopping your heart, or can your brain really send a signal that your heart will stop? No. Yes or no? No. Right. So basically there are two type of muscles, right? So first of all, first one is the voluntary muscles. The first type of muscle is the voluntary muscles, and the voluntary muscles are those muscles which we can control at our will. Now suppose if I want to move my head down, then I can do it. The muscles that are voluntary will let me put my head down, right? But can I really stop my heart? Can I really stop my breathing for more than a few seconds? No, because those are involuntary actions, isn't it? Those are involuntary actions, and the involuntary muscles cannot be controlled by our activities, right, students? Okay. So till now, what we have studied? We have studied that muscle fibers are the elongated fibers that have contractile protein in them, and the muscles produce movement in the body. By how? How does the muscles produce movement in our body? The muscles produce movement in our body by the means of contraction and relaxation. Okay, students. So now let's go to the evaluation part. So there is a quiz for you. So just tell me that muscle fibers are of which shape? Is it circular? Is it circular? Is it elongated? Is it square? Or is it rectangle? Okay, I'm giving you not more than 10 seconds. I'll just give you 10 seconds, not more than that. Okay, your time is about to end. Right. So the muscle fibers are not square, muscle fibers are not circular, not rectangle, not square. The muscle fibers are only elongated. Right. So now let's come on to the next question based upon the control. See, the question says based upon the control, based upon the control, muscles can be of how many types? So based upon the control, muscles can be of how many types, students? Just think about it and answer. Yes? Okay. So we have saw in our previous slide only that based upon the control, muscles can be of two types, right? And what are those two types? First is the voluntary and another one is the involuntary. First is the voluntary and another one is the involuntary muscles, right? So voluntary muscles are those muscles that we can control at our will, and involuntary muscles are those muscles which we cannot control at our will. They are controlled by themselves, right? They are controlled by our nervous system, right? Okay, students. So shall we move ahead? Yes? Okay. Now just we will do an activity. All of you raise your hands like this. Right. So, have you ever thought that how we can raise our hands? Yes, students, how you can raise your hands? What is the process happening that is making you raise your hand or that is allowing you to raise your hand? Have you ever thought of this? No? Okay, then we will think of this right now. Okay, students? Right. So, students, we have seen that for rising the hand, right? So we need some muscles and we can raise our hand at our will, isn't it? Now I am saying you to raise your hand, you are raising your hand, right? So it is happening at your will. So this activity is which type of activity? It is a voluntary activity, right? So today, now we are going to learn about what? Now we are going to learn about voluntary muscles. Okay, so now just look at the voluntary muscles. Okay, just look at this picture now. For now, just look at this picture. So what you can see from this picture, students? Yes, when you zoom it, you will see when you will zoom it, you will see that there are different lines here. Can you see this different line? I will just change the color of the ink, then you can see it visibly. There are different lines here. Can you see this? Yes. So these muscles or the voluntary muscles are also called as what? These voluntary muscles are also called as skeletal muscles, right? These muscles are called as the skeletal muscles. And what is the reason to call them skeletal muscles, students? The reason to call them skeletal muscles is that they are mostly attached to the bones in our body, right? These muscles are attached to the bones in our body. That's why we call them as skeletal muscles. So we can say that voluntary muscles are also called as the skeletal muscles because they are attached to the bones and help in the body movement. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Here you will see in this picture. Can you see this picture, students? This picture? Yes. From this picture, just think about what can be the characteristics of the voluntary muscles, right? So the voluntary in the voluntary muscles, the tissue are long, cylindrical, unbranched, and multinucleate. You can see here in this picture, you can see that the tissues are the cells, muscle cells. These are long, right? These are not branched, right? These are just one only. There is no branch coming out of it, right? There are no branches out of it, right? So these are unbranched, long, and after that, what you will see? You will see that in every cells you will find multiple dots. These blue dots you can find here. Can you find? Can you locate this, or should I help you locate this? Okay, no problem. I'll help you. So can look here, 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 here. Everywhere in this picture you will find blue dots, right? And these blue dots represents the nucleus, right? So these voluntary muscles are long. First of all, it is long, it is cylindrical, it is unbranched, and it is multinucleate. The word multinucleate means having more than one nuclei. Okay, having more than one nuclei. Right, students? Okay. So these are some characteristics of the voluntary muscles. What? Long, cylindrical, unbranched, and multinucleate. Okay. So, students, when we look at the voluntary muscles inside the microscope, we will see alternate patterns of dark and light band. As we saw in our previous picture, right? We see a serration or striation of dark and light band, right? Okay, students. Like suppose if I draw here, I will just draw a muscle here. Suppose that this is a muscle fiber, a voluntary muscle or a skeletal muscle. Okay, so first of all, it will be long, cylindrical, unbranched, and it will be having multiple nuclei in it, right? It will be having multiple nuclei in it. And after that, what we will be seeing? We will be seeing patterns of dark and white bands. Okay, we will be seeing patterns of dark and white bands, right? And for this reason only, what we say that the voluntary muscles are also called as the striated muscles, right? That's why we call them as striated. Striated means divided into strips. There are white strips and there are blue strips, right? So that's why it is called as the striated muscles. Okay, so now let's come to the quiz section. So skeletal muscles are also called as dash muscles. Okay, skeletal muscles are also called as dash muscles. What are your answers, students? I'm just giving you 10 seconds to quickly think about it and answer this question. Okay, right. So 10 seconds starts now. Okay, so students, the skeletal muscles are also called as, first, it is the voluntary muscle, and we can also call it as striated. Why we can call it as voluntary muscles? Because these muscles are under our control, and we call them as striated muscles because they show alternate pattern of dark and light bands. Okay, students, right? Very good. Now, there is another question for you. So, striated muscles are, read the options very carefully. First one, long, cylindrical, unbranched, or fourth option, is it all of the above? Right? Is it all of the above? So, just think about this question and I'll ask the answer in just 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So what is the correct answer, students? Yes, it is all of the above. The striated muscles are long, it is also cylindrical, it is also unbranched. So the answer is all of the above. Very good, students. Now, students, look at this picture. Whenever you eat something, that food passes down through your esophagus, isn't it? It passes down through your esophagus, right? So the movement of esophagus, can you control that movement of esophagus? Suppose that if I am eating a biscuit, then it, as soon as it goes beyond this point, what it does, it automatically goes inside my body, isn't it? It automatically goes inside the stomach. So can you really control the movement of the esophagus? Yes. No, you cannot control the movement of the esophagus. So that's why this type of muscle, we call it as what? This type of muscle, we call it as involuntary muscle. Okay? Involuntary muscles. Or we can also say smooth muscles. Just look at this picture. You can say it as smooth muscles. So now let's study about it in little bit of more detail. Right. So the smooth muscles are also called as the involuntary muscles, right? Control the involuntary movements, right? And what are the involuntary movements? Like the movement of the esophagus, movement of the lungs, movement of our heart, movement of our diaphragm, right? So these movements are involuntary movements, right? These are not under our control. These are not under our direct control, right? That's why these muscles are known as involuntary muscles. When you will look at the shape of the muscle fibers, when you will look at the shape of the muscle fiber, you can find that these muscle fibers are basically spindle shaped, isn't it? It is spindle shaped. It is in this shape. It is thin at the sides and then thick at the middle, isn't it? So this shape is called as what? This shape is called as spindle shape. Okay, students, this shape is called as spindle shape. Okay, and another difference from the from the skeletal muscles is what? The skeletal muscle was cylindrical, isn't it? The skeletal muscles was cylindrical. It was having more than one nuclei, or it was multinucleate. But when we are studying about the involuntary muscles, involuntary muscles are basically what? These are spindle shape, and also it is having just only one nucleus, or we can say uninucleate. What we can say? Uninucleate, right? So let's think about where we can find these muscles. Yes, students, what are some of the involuntary movements that you can think about? Okay, So like in iris of our eye, can we really control our iris, or is it automatically fixed based upon the light? Tell me. Yes, it is automatically fixed. So it is there is a presence of involuntary muscles in iris, in uterus, in bronchi of the lungs. Okay, students? Right. So students, we have saw about the involuntary muscles, isn't it? Now there is one specialized type of involuntary muscle, and that muscle is called as what? That muscle is called as cardiac muscle, right? And the cardiac muscles are the muscles of the heart, right? And the muscles of the heart shows rhythmic contraction and relaxation throughout the life. These involuntary muscles are called as what? These involuntary muscles are called as cardiac muscles. The heart muscles are cylindrical, branched, and uninucleate. Okay, you can see here these are multiple cells. So these are what? Cylindrical, branched, and uninucleate. Okay, students. Right. Now there is one question for you. So smooth muscles are uninucleate or multinucleate? Yes, smooth muscles are uninucleate. Okay, very good students. Smooth muscles are uninucleate. So cardiac muscles are different from the smooth muscles. How it is different from the smooth muscles? Yes, students. So it is a cylindrical. Okay, it is also branched, right? So smooth muscles are basically spindle shaped. Cardiac muscles are cylindrical. Smooth muscles are not having any branches. Cardiac muscle has branch. Okay, right? And both of the cardiac muscles and the smooth muscles are uninucleate. Okay, students, so that is the correct answer. So let's quickly recap what we have studied today. So we have studied about the muscular tissues, right? And let's now quickly answer some of the questions. You will answer it with me. So what are the types of list the types of muscular tissues found in the human body? What are the types of muscular tissues found in our human body? Yes, first is the skeletal muscle, second is the smooth muscles, and third one is the cardiac muscle. Right. So second question says describe stratified muscular tissue. Right. So the stratified muscular tissue, students, as we have studied, tell me that it is which type of tissue? Yes, it is the voluntary muscles. Very good. It is also known as the skeletal muscles. It is having alternate dark and light banding. So that's why it is called as the stratified muscular tissue. Right. Now there is a third question. Justify the following statement. Cardiac muscles are different from the smooth muscles. How the cardiac muscles are different from the smooth muscles, student? Yes. So the first one is that the smooth muscles are spindle shaped, but the cardiac muscles are cylindrical. Right? The smooth muscles are non-branched. The cardiac muscle is branched. Right? Is it okay, students? Right. Okay. So where can you find the smooth muscles in your human body? So we can find it in the iris, we can find it in the pupil, isn't it? We can find it in our bladders, right? Okay. So describe why the stratified muscles is so named. You need to answer this, that why the stratified muscles are named as stratified muscles. Yes, students? Yes. So answer is that in the stratified muscles, there is alternate light and dark band. So due to this light and dark band alternation only, we say that we say that it is stratified muscles. Okay, students? Is it clear? Okay. Right. So there is one homework for you. So what you need to do is prepare a chart showing different types of muscular tissues, mentioning their function and location inside the human body. Okay. And after that, you need to describe the function of stratified muscles. So that's all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you.